Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ridel Decastro, and today I want to present to you the material about history of English language. Before that, just reminder, the video is just illustration. Okay, let's start now. When we think of English, we usually think of it as one single language. But if you think about it, does the English we speak today really sound like the English used by old writers like Geoffrey Chaucer? And why does modern English look so different from the strange words in the ancient poem Beowulf? The answer is simple. Language change. English has changed a lot over time because different generations of people spoke it differently. If we look backward into history, we can trace English all the way back to its very first roots. And next, if you look at modern English today, it shares many words with language like French and Spanish. But a long time ago, those words were not part of English at all. They entered the language in the year 1066, when French-speaking people called the Normans invaded and conquered England. Because the Normans became the new rulers, they brought their own language with them. They add thousands of French and Latin words into the local language, which we now call Old English. Next, it's about Germanic roots and the Vikings. Old English was the language used to write the famous story of Beowulf. If you see it today, you won't understand it, but it actually looks a bit like German. That is because Old English belongs to the Germanic language family. This language was first brought to Britain in the 5th and 6th centuries by three tribes: the Angles, the Saxons, and the Jutes. Later, between the 8th and 11th centuries, Viking invaders came to England and added many words from their own language, Old Norse, into the mix. And number 4, it's about how experts trace the history of words. It is hard to see the original roots of English because it borrowed so many words from French, Latin, and Old Norse. However, language experts use a method called comparative linguistics to find the truth. They do this by comparing sentence structures, regular patterns of sound change, basic everyday words. For example, after the 6th century, German words starting with P changed into a PF sound, but English kept the original P sound. Also, words that have an SK sound in Swedish become an SH sound in English. English words that still have SK, like skirt or school, are actually direct words borrowed from the Vikings after the sound change happened. Because this sound change happened in a very regular way, We know that English, German, and Swedish all came from one single grandfather language called Proto-Germanic, spoken around 500 before century. And next, the deepest root. Proto, Indo, and European, if we use the exact same method, we can go even further back in time. We can trace Proto-Germanic back to a much older language called Proto-Indo-European. People spoke this language about 6,000 years ago in modern-day Ukraine and Russia. This is the ancient mother tongue of almost all languages historically spoken in Europe and large parts of Asia. For instance, if you compare English and Latin, you will see a perfect pattern. English words often start with T, where Latin used D, and English used F, where Latin used P. This means English is actually a distant relative of languages like Hindi, Persian, and Celtic. So, the conclusion is, we know that Proto-Indo-European came from an even older language. But 6,000 years ago is the absolute limit for historians and archaeology. We cannot go back any further, and many secrets are still lost in time. But think about this amazing fact. Today, nearly 3 billion people around the world speak languages that came from this same ancient root. Even though we cannot understand each other, we are using the exact same words shaped by 6,000 years of history. And that's all from me. I'm Ridel Decastro. Thank you.